The pills dissolved quickly in lukewarm water. I watched them fizz, thinking how fitting it was that even my death would be cheap and generic. My sister Madison had the premium life insurance policy, the one Dad bought her when she turned 18. I got a card that said, "Sorry, budget's tight." I lifted the glass. In my previous life, I drunk it, died alone in this same studio apartment at 26, my body not found for 3 days. The landlord had only checked because of the smell. This time, I poured it down the sink. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage, because I remembered everything, every betrayal, every theft, every time my own family had sabotaged me, and the final, ultimate theft that had driven me to this moment in my first life, Madison stealing the job offer that would have changed everything. The offer letter from Titan Defense Systems sat on my desk, still sealed. In my previous life, I'd opened it immediately, hands trembling with joy. Security Analyst, Level 3. Starting salary, $127,000. Full benefits. A career with one of the nation's top defense contractors. They'd told me during the final interview that my background check had come back cleaner than almost anyone they'd ever seen. "You're exactly what we need," the hiring manager had said. "Trustworthy, reliable, no skeletons." I'd been so proud. Finally, after years of struggling, of working 3 jobs to put myself through state college while Madison attended Yale on Dad's dime, I was going to make it. I'd called Mom first. Mistake number 1. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," she'd said. Then after a pause, "Did you tell Madison? She's been looking for work since graduation. Maybe you could put in a word?" I should have lied. Should have said the position was unique, that there were no other openings. But I'd been naive. Stupid. I'd actually believed that my own mother wanted me to succeed. "They're hiring for a few positions," I'd said. "But I don't think Madison would want it. It's security work, lots of background checks and clearances. You know how she is about privacy." How she was about privacy. What a joke. What I'd meant was, you know how Madison's college years were filled with things that would never pass a federal background check. Mom had made a small noise. Madison made some youthful mistakes. We all do. Youthful mistakes. That's what they called it when Madison had been arrested twice for DUI in college. When she'd been suspended for plagiarism. When she'd run up $30,000 in credit card debt under Dad's business account and blamed it on identity theft. When she'd been fired from her first job out of college for harassment. But I was the one who'd had to work through college because it builds character. I was the one who'd been told we couldn't afford help with tuition because Madison's Ivy League education is an investment. In my first life, I'd ignored the warning bells. I'd actually helped Madison apply to Titan Defense. I'd given her the recruiter's name, told her what they were looking for. 2 weeks later, my offer letter was rescinded. Due to an administrative error, they'd claimed, the position has been filled. 3 weeks after that, I saw Madison's Facebook post, her beaming in front of the Titan Defense Systems logo, holding a badge. "So blessed to start my new career in national security. Dreams really do come true." I'd called her, called Mom, called Dad. Madison claimed she'd applied separately, that she hadn't known it was the same position. Mom said I was being jealous. Dad told me to be happy for my sister for once. I'd checked LinkedIn. Madison's profile suddenly claimed a degree in international security studies, a degree that didn't exist at Yale. Her resume listed experience in classified government consulting, a complete fabrication. And her references included someone I'd never heard of, but whose name sounded suspiciously similar to the hiring manager who'd interviewed me. When I'd tried to report it, I'd been told there was nothing I could do. The offer had been rescinded. Madison had been hired. End of story. I'd spiraled after that. Lost my apartment. Lost my jobs when depression made it impossible to get out of bed. My family never called to check on me. And 6 months later, I'd stood in this exact spot, mixing those same pills into water, thinking that if I couldn't have a future, at least I could have silence. But I'd woken up in my childhood bedroom in my 22-year-old body 3 weeks before my college graduation. 4 years before Madison would steal everything. I'd thought I was going insane at first, but the memories were too vivid, too detailed. I remembered things that hadn't happened yet. I remembered the exact date Madison would get her second DUI. I remembered the name of the married professor she'd have an affair with. I remembered the check she'd forged from Dad's account, the one they'd covered up, and I remembered every single detail about Titan Defense Systems' background check process. Now, standing in my apartment, the same apartment I'd died in, though I was living here 4 years earlier this time, I looked at the unopened offer letter and smiled. This time, things would be different. This time, I'd made sure Madison would hang herself. The memories of my previous life had come back in fragments at first. I'd woken up the morning after graduation, gasping, my mind flooded with images of a future that hadn't happened yet. For 3 days, I'd locked myself in my dorm room trying to make sense of it, testing small things. The coffee shop on campus would run out of blueberry muffins by 10 a.m. on Thursday. I'd known that, and I was right. Professor Chen would announce her pregnancy on Friday. I'd known, and she did. By the end of the week, I'd accepted it. I'd been given a second chance, and I was going to use it. But first, I'd had to understand what had gone wrong. In my first life, I'd spent weeks reviewing every memory, every interaction with my family. The pattern was so clear I couldn't believe I'd missed it before. My parents had never loved me. Not really. I was the accident baby, born when Mom was 41 and Dad was 45. Madison had been 10, already the golden child, already perfect in every way. I disrupted their lives, made things complicated, cost money they'd earmarked for Madison's future. They'd never said it directly, but it was there in every action, every choice. When I was 6, they'd forgotten my birthday. Madison had a party with a rented pony that same week. When I was 9, I'd won the school science fair. They'd missed the ceremony because Madison had a dance recital, one of dozens that year. When I was 12, I'd asked for piano lessons. "We can't afford it," Dad had said. 2 weeks later, Madison got a new horse for dressage competitions. When I was 15, I'd needed glasses. They'd made me wait 6 months, getting cheap frames from an online retailer. Madison got LASIK at 16 because contacts were too much hassle. The financial abuse had been constant, but subtle enough that I'd normalized it. I'd believed I was the problem, that I wasn't worth investing in, that I needed to prove myself worthy of their love. I'd worked myself to exhaustion trying to be good enough. Straight A's through high school, full scholarship to state college, 3 jobs to pay for housing and food. I'd graduated summa cum laude with a degree in computer security, no student debt, and a portfolio of certifications that had made me one of the most qualified candidates Titan Defense had ever interviewed. And Madison, who'd partied through Yale on Dad's $300,000 investment, who'd barely graduated with a 2.7 GPA in art history, who'd been fired from her first job at a gallery for sleeping with the owner's husband, Madison had stolen my future because Mom had made a phone call. I'd remembered it so clearly after I'd come back. In my first life, after I'd told Mom about the Titan Defense offer, she'd called Madison immediately. I'd heard her on the phone later that night talking in her bedroom. "Honey, you need to call this recruiter. Tell them you're interested. Use your sister's name as a reference. They already like the family connection." Madison had done more than that. She'd called the recruiter, mentioned my name, and then claimed to be calling to update our shared application materials. She'd convinced them we were both candidates from the same referral source, and then she'd systematically sabotaged me. She'd called back, pretending to be me, and pushed back my start date. Then she'd called again and asked inappropriate questions about salary that made me look unprofessional. She'd sent an email from a fake account similar to mine, full of typos and demanding special accommodations. Meanwhile, she'd worked with Mom to fabricate her entire resume. Dad had used his business connections to create fake references. They'd even found someone at Yale to backdate an independent study in international security to her transcript. And I'd never known. I'd just thought I'd lost the opportunity through bad luck. The background check had been thorough in my first life, but they'd only checked what Madison had given them. A fake address history that omitted her DUI arrests, references who'd been prepped with a script, a Yale transcript that had been doctored. It had all fallen apart 6 months into her job when a routine security audit had flagged discrepancies. But by then, I'd been dead. I'd never known that Madison had been fired, that she'd fled to California to avoid prosecution for fraud, that she'd left Mom and Dad to deal with the legal fallout. This time, I would know everything. and I would make sure everyone else knew too. The first thing I'd done after accepting my rebirth was document everything. Every memory I had of Madison's crimes, every detail of her real history. I'd created an encrypted file on a secure cloud server, backing up everything I knew about the timeline. Then I'd started planning. The beauty of having foreknowledge wasn't just knowing what would happen, it was knowing exactly how to prevent it, or how to make sure it happened to the right person. I'd spent my first year back being the perfect daughter and sister. Supportive, kind, helpful. I'd called Mom weekly, sent Madison care packages at Yale, attended every family dinner with a smile. They'd been surprised at first. "You're in such a good mood lately," Mom had said 6 months in. "Did you meet someone?" "Just happy," I'd replied. "Life is good." And it was, because I was building my trap. I'd graduated exactly as before, summa cum laude. I'd gotten the same certifications, aced the same interviews. And when Titan Defense Systems had reached out to me, I'd been ready. But this time, I hadn't told Mom about the job offer. I'd told Madison. "Maddie," I'd said, calling her 2 weeks ago, my voice bright with false excitement. "You'll never believe what happened. I got a job offer from Titan Defense Systems." "That's great, Em," she'd said, her voice flat. I could practically hear her mental calculations. Another thing her little sister had achieved that she hadn't. "Yeah, it's a security analyst position. The pay is amazing, and they said my background check came back perfect. They're really excited to have me." Silence on the other end. "The only thing is," I'd continued, "they mentioned they're hiring for several positions. I was thinking, you've been looking for work, right? Maybe you'd be interested?" I dangled the bait so carefully, made it seem like my idea, made it seem like I was being generous, sharing this opportunity with her. "I don't know," Madison had said slowly. "Security work? That's not really my thing." "The pay starts at over 6 figures," I'd said. "And it's a really prestigious company. Great benefits. It could be an amazing opportunity for you." I'd heard her breath quicken slightly. Money always got her attention. "Let me think about it," she'd said. I'd given her 48 hours before I'd called Mom. "Hey, I got this amazing job offer. I'm so excited. They even said they're hiring multiple positions. So if Madison's interested, she should apply too." That had been the trigger. Mom had immediately called Madison. I'd known she would. And Madison, knowing that Mom was pushing her, would suddenly become very interested in this opportunity. 3 days later, Madison had called me. "Hey, Em, about that job you mentioned, could you send me the recruiter's contact info?" "Of course," I'd said. I'm so glad you're interested." And then I'd waited. I'd known exactly what would happen. Madison would call the recruiter. She'd use my name. She'd start the same process of sabotage. But this time, I was ready. This time, I'd already called the Titan Defense HR department myself. I'd explained that my sister might be applying and might use my name as a reference, and that while I loved her dearly, I wanted to make sure there was no confusion between our applications. I'd been so sweet, so professional. "I just want everything to be above board," I'd said. "We're very different candidates, and I'd hate for there to be any mix-ups." They'd appreciated my transparency. They'd flagged both our files to keep them separate. And then I'd started feeding Madison information. Wrong information. I'd told her the background check was pretty standard, just the basics. I'd mentioned that they don't really dig too deep into college records. I'd casually said that a few people I know had minor things in their past and it wasn't a big deal. Madison had eaten it up. She'd started her application with confidence, sure that she could finesse her way through just like she had everything else in her life. But here's what Madison didn't know. I'd spent 4 years in my previous life becoming an expert in security clearance background checks. After losing that job, I'd obsessed over them. I'd learned every single thing that could disqualify someone, every question they asked, every database they searched. And I'd made sure that in this timeline, Madison's real history was even more documented than before. The turning point had come 3 months ago. I'd been having dinner with my parents, and Dad had mentioned that Madison was going through a rough patch. What kind of rough patch? I'd asked, all innocent concern. Just some legal trouble, Mom had said dismissively. A misunderstanding with a traffic incident. Her second DUI. It had happened right on schedule, 3 months earlier in the timeline than when I'd found out about it in my first life. That's terrible, I'd said. Is she okay? She's fine, Dad had said. We got her a good lawyer. It'll be taken care of. Taken care of. Meaning buried, sealed, hidden. But I'd been prepared for this too. Because I'd known the exact date it would happen, I'd made an anonymous tip to the local news about a pattern of DUI dismissals in Madison's college town. A young reporter eager for a story had started digging, and suddenly, Madison's case was part of a larger investigation into judicial favoritism. It couldn't be sealed. It became part of the public record. That's such bad luck, I'd said at dinner, shaking my head sympathetically. Right when she's trying to start her career, too. Mom had given me a sharp look. Madison will be fine. She always lands on her feet. I'd smiled and changed the subject, but inside I'd been counting down the days. Because I knew that Titan Defense Systems ran the most thorough background checks in the industry. They didn't just check criminal records, they checked court documents, police reports, news articles. They interviewed neighbors, former employers, college roommates, and they had a zero-tolerance policy for dishonesty on the application. Madison's application had been a work of fiction. She'd listed a degree she didn't have. Experience she'd fabricated. She'd checked no on the question about criminal convictions, conveniently forgetting her 2 DUIs. She'd listed her former supervisor at the gallery as a reference, the same woman whose husband she'd slept with. I'd made sure every single one of those lies would be discovered. The plagiarism incident from her sophomore year? I'd anonymously sent Yale's honor code records to a journalism database that Titan Defense routinely checked. The credit card fraud? I'd made sure the police report Dad had buried was mysteriously refiled in the correct database. The harassment claim from her first job? I'd tracked down her former coworker, the one who'd filed the complaint, and connected her with a women's advocacy group that was building a database of workplace harassment. Madison's case was now fully documented. Every skeleton in Madison's closet was about to come dancing out. And me? My background check would come back cleaner than fresh snow, because it was the truth. I'd never lied, never cheated, never committed a crime. I'd worked hard, played by the rules, and earned everything I had. The irony was perfect. In my first life, Madison had stolen my opportunity by pretending to be qualified. In this life, I was going to let her steal it again, only to watch her fail spectacularly when the truth came out. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Emma, this is James Rodriguez from Titan Defense Systems. We need to schedule your final security interview. My heart raced, but I kept my voice calm. Of course. When works for you? How about next Tuesday at 2 p.m.? It should take about an hour. This is the last step before we finalize your offer. That sounds perfect. Thank you so much. I hung up and stared at my phone. In my first life, this call had come on a Wednesday. Madison's sabotage had already been in motion by then, and by Thursday, my offer had been rescinded. This time, the timeline was different. Madison had applied later. Her background check was still in progress. I called her that evening. Hey, Maddie, how's your job application going? Oh, fine, she said, her voice tight. They're doing some kind of background check, taking forever. Yeah, mine too, but they called today to schedule a final interview, so I think it's almost done. Silence on the other end. Then, they called you for a final interview? Yeah, Tuesday afternoon. Didn't they call you? Not yet. Her voice was icy now. I'm sure they will soon, I said brightly. Maybe they're just processing applications in different orders. Maybe, she said. And hung up. I smiled. Let her stew in it. Let her start to panic. Because I knew exactly what was happening at Titan Defense. I'd lived through enough of this process to understand their procedures. Madison's background check had flagged multiple discrepancies. Her case had been escalated to the senior security team. They were now doing a deep dive, comparing every detail of her application against every piece of evidence they could find. And they were finding everything. The weekend passed slowly. I didn't call Madison, didn't call Mom. I waited. On Monday morning, my phone rang. Madison. I need to ask you something. Her voice was strained. Sure, what's up? Did you tell Titan Defense anything about me? What do you mean? Like, about my background? About college? About anything? I let confusion color my voice. I mentioned you were applying when I first talked to HR, just so there wouldn't be any confusion since we have the same last name. Why? They're asking me all these weird questions about things from years ago. It's like they're investigating me for a crime or something. That's so strange, I said. My background check was really straightforward. Maybe it's just standard procedure? This isn't standard, she snapped. They contacted people from my sorority. They got my transcripts from Yale. They even talked to my first boss. The one whose husband you slept with, I thought. Out loud, I said, Wow, they're really thorough, but I'm sure it's fine if you don't have anything to hide, right? Another silence. Right, she said finally. I'm sure it's fine. But I could hear the fear in her voice. Tuesday came. I dressed in my best interview suit. Navy blue, professional, perfect. I drove to Titan Defense's headquarters, a sleek building in the tech corridor, and checked in at reception. James Rodriguez met me in the lobby. He was in his 50s, gray-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd spent time in the military. Emma, good to see you again. Come on up. The interview was everything I'd remembered from my first life, but better. Because this time, I knew every question they'd ask. I knew exactly how to answer. Your background check came back exceptionally clean, James said. In fact, it's one of the cleanest we've seen in years. No red flags whatsoever. Thank you, I said. I've always tried to live with integrity. We can tell. We did extensive interviews with your references, your former employers, even some of your college professors. Everyone spoke highly of you. You're clearly someone who takes her commitments seriously. He leaned forward slightly. I'll be honest with you, Emma. We don't see candidates like you very often. Most people have something in their past. Maybe not disqualifying, but something that requires explanation. But you're the real deal. I felt warmth spread through my chest. This was what I deserved to hear in my first life. This validation, this recognition. We'd like to extend a formal offer, James continued. Same position we discussed. Security analyst, level 3. Starting salary $127,000 with full benefits and a security clearance track. We're hoping you can start in 2 weeks. I accept, I said without hesitation. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We shook hands. He smiled. Welcome to Titan Defense, Emma. We're lucky to have you. I walked out of that building feeling like I was floating. It was done. I'd won. But the best part, the revenge part, was still to come. The call came to Madison 3 days later. I know because Mom called me, hysterical. Emma, did you sabotage your sister? I'd been expecting this, but I still felt a jolt of adrenaline. What? Mom, what are you talking about? Madison's job offer. They rescinded it. They said she failed the background check. Oh no, that's terrible. Don't play innocent with me. What did you tell them? Mom, I didn't tell them anything except that she was applying, I swear. What happened? They said, Mom's voice broke. They said she lied on her application, that she listed qualifications she doesn't have, that she has a criminal record she didn't disclose. They said they might report her for fraud. I let appropriate shock color my voice. Fraud? Madison wouldn't. Mom, are you sure there wasn't some kind of mistake? Of course there was a mistake. Madison would never. She's not a liar. But she was. We both knew it. Mom just refused to admit it. Where's Madison now? I asked. In her apartment. She won't talk to anyone. Emma, you have to help her. You have to call them and explain. Explain what, Mom? If they found something on her background check, that's between Madison and them. I can't interfere with their investigation. Investigation? Mom's voice went shrill. What investigation? You said they might report her for fraud. That sounds like they're taking it seriously. Mom, if Madison lied on her application, that's a federal crime, especially for a security clearance position. She didn't lie. She might have exaggerated some things. Everyone does that on resumes. Not on applications for security clearances, said quietly. Mom, those are federal background checks. You can't exaggerate anything. They verify everything. This is your fault, Mom hissed. You're jealous of your sister. You've always been jealous. You probably told them lies about her to make yourself look better. The accusation should have hurt. In my first life, it would have devastated me. But now, with the perspective of having lived through this before, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I got my job on my own merits, I said. Madison applied on her own. Whatever happened with her background check is her responsibility, not mine. You got the job? Mom's voice went very quiet. Yes, they called me with an offer last week. I start Monday. And you didn't think to mention it? I was going to tell everyone at Sunday dinner. I wanted it to be a surprise. Some surprise, Mom said bitterly. Your sister's life is ruined and you're celebrating. Madison's life isn't ruined. She just didn't get one job. She can apply elsewhere. She can't. Don't you understand? Titan Defense is reporting her to a fraud database. She's blacklisted from the entire defense industry. She might face criminal charges. Good, I thought. Out loud, Mom, I'm really sorry Madison is going through this, but if she made mistakes on her application, that's something she'll have to deal with. I can't fix it for her. You could if you wanted to. You could call them, tell them she's a good person, that it was all a misunderstanding. And lie for her? Mom, these are federal background checks. I'm not going to commit perjury to cover for Madison's choices. Mom's voice turned cold. I see. Your sister needs you, and you're going to abandon her. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just not willing to destroy my own career to fix hers. Fine, don't come to Sunday dinner. Don't call me. Don't call your father. If you're going to turn your back on this family, then you're not welcome here. She hung up. I stared at my phone, waiting for the pain to hit, for the guilt, for the desperate need to fix things, to make my mother love me. But it didn't come, because I'd already lived through being abandoned by them. I'd already felt the worst pain they could inflict, and I'd survived it. This time I was choosing myself. Sunday dinner happened without me. I know because Dad called on Monday morning. Emma, his voice was gruff. Your mother told me about your conversation. Hi, Dad. This is a difficult situation. Madison is very upset. I'm sure she is. She says you told Titan Defense about her past mistakes. I told them she was applying and that we were separate candidates, that's all. They found out about her DUIs, her academic issues, everything. They run thorough background checks. It's what they do. Silence, then Your mother thinks you deliberately sabotaged Madison. And what do you think? More silence. I think Madison made her own choices, and those choices have consequences. I nearly dropped the phone. Dad had never in my entire life held Madison accountable for anything. But, he continued, she's still your sister, and family is supposed to protect each other. Did she protect me? The words came out before I could stop them. Did she protect me when she took my first job offer 4 years ago? The silence on the other end was deafening. What are you talking about? Dad said finally. I'd slipped. In this timeline, Madison hadn't stolen my job yet because I'd prevented it. But the rage from my first life was still there, burning. Nothing, I said. I'm just saying that Madison has never protected me. She's always looked out for herself. Why am I expected to sacrifice my career for hers? Because that's what family does. No, Dad. That's what I'm expected to do. Madison has never been asked to sacrifice anything for me. Neither have you or Mom. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you helped me with anything? When was the last time Mom called to see how I was doing? When was the last time anyone in this family treated me like I mattered? Emma, you're being dramatic. I'm being honest. And I'm done pretending that this family is something it's not. I love you all, but I'm not going to set myself on fire to keep Madison warm. Not anymore. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking. I'd never stood up to my parents like that. Never. Even in my first life, even at my lowest point, I'd still been desperate for their approval. But I didn't need it anymore. I had proof now that I was worth something. Titan Defense had chosen me because I was qualified, because I was trustworthy, because I was valuable. My family's opinion didn't change that. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. I started my new job, and it was everything I dreamed it would be. The work was challenging and engaging. My colleagues were brilliant and supportive. My manager, Sarah Chen, took me under her wing immediately. "You're going to do great here," she said on my first day. "Your background check was one of the best we've seen. That tells me a lot about your character." Character, the thing my family had always said I lacked. Meanwhile, Madison's world was imploding. I heard about it in pieces through the grapevine. A former college friend who still followed Madison on social media, a distant cousin who loved to gossip. Madison had been formally reported to the Federal Fraud Prevention Database for lying on her security clearance application. The report was public record. Any future employer in the defense, government, or security sectors would see it immediately. Her DUI arrests, previously buried by Dad's lawyers, were now part of a public investigation into judicial corruption. The local news had run a series of stories about wealthy families buying their children out of consequences. Madison had been featured prominently. Her Yale transcript had been audited after Titan Defense reported discrepancies. The university had discovered that the independent study in international security had never existed. Someone had hacked the system to add it. Yale was investigating, and the harassment claim from her first job? The woman she'd wronged had come forward as part of a larger investigation into workplace misconduct at the gallery. Madison was being named in a lawsuit. Everything she'd ever lied about, every consequence she'd ever escaped, was catching up to her all at once. I should have felt guilty. I'd orchestrated so much of this. I'd made sure the evidence was available. I'd tipped off the right people at the right times. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt satisfied. Because this was justice, real justice. Not revenge, though it felt like that too, but actual consequences for actual actions. Madison had built her entire life on lies and manipulation. She'd hurt people, broken rules, and expected Daddy's money to make it all go away. And it had worked for years. But not anymore. 3 months into my new job, I got promoted. Sarah called me into her office with a huge smile. "Emma, I'm recommending you for advancement to Level 4 Analyst. Normally we wait a year, but your work has been exceptional. You've already passed 2 major security audits and identified 3 potential vulnerabilities in our systems. You're exactly the kind of employee we want to invest in." Level 4 came with a $45,000 raise. It came with a dedicated office. It came with leadership responsibilities. It came with respect. I called my college roommate that night, one of the few people I'd stayed close with. "Sarah, I got promoted." "Emma, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks. It feels surreal, like this can't be real." "Why wouldn't it be real? You've worked so hard. You deserve this." Deserve. That word still felt foreign. "Hey," Sarah said gently, "but have you talked to your family at all?" "No, they made it clear I'm not welcome unless I fix Madison's mess for her." "That's so messed up. I'm sorry." "Don't be. Honestly, I'm happier now than I've been in years, maybe ever." And it was true. Without the constant weight of my family's disapproval, without the endless cycle of seeking approval I'd never receive, I felt lighter, free. 6 months after starting at Titan Defense, I was assigned to a high profile project working directly with Pentagon liaisons. It was career defining work, the kind of opportunity that people spent decades working toward. I was 26 years old and I was thriving. That same week, I got a message on LinkedIn from Madison. We need to talk. Please call me. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it, block her, move on completely. But part of me needed to hear what she had to say, needed to see if she'd finally face what she'd done. I called her from my car after work, sitting in the Titan Defense parking's lot. Emma. Her voice was small, broken. Thank you for calling. What do you want, Madison? I wanted to apologize. I waited. I know you probably don't believe me, but I'm sorry. For everything. For how Mom and Dad treated you. For how I treated you. For not standing up for you when I should have. That's not why you called, I said. She was quiet for a moment. No, you're right. I called because I need help. With what? The lawsuits, the investigations. I can't afford a lawyer. Dad cut me off. Mom says I embarrassed the family. I'm drowning. I thought about my first life, about dying alone, abandoned by this same family because I wasn't successful enough, perfect enough, Madison enough. No, I said simply. Please, Emma, I know I don't deserve it, but you're the only one who can help me. You have connections now. You're respected. If you vouched for me, Madison, stop. Emma, please. No, my voice was firm. You made choices. You lied on a federal application. You committed fraud. You plagiarized in college. You drove drunk twice. You harassed someone at work. These aren't things that happened to you. These are things you did. I know, but us. And when you got caught, your first instinct wasn't to take responsibility. It was to blame me, to have Mom call and accuse me of sabotaging you. That was wrong. I know that now. Do you? Or are you just sorry because you're facing consequences for the first time in your life? Silence. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college, I continued. I graduated with honors. I earned every certification, every qualification, every opportunity I have. And you tried to take it from me. Just like you've taken everything from me my entire life. I didn't. You did. You got the nice room, the car, the college fund. You got Mom and Dad's attention, their pride, their love. And it still wasn't enough. You had to take the one thing I'd earned on my own. Emma, I'm sorry. I don't care. I spent 26 years trying to earn this family's love, trying to be good enough. And I finally realized I was always good enough. You just couldn't see it. Please don't hang up. Good luck with your lawsuits, Madison. I hope you figure out how to take responsibility for your life. I ended the call and blocked her number, and then I sat in my car and cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. From release. I'd finally let go. A year after I started at Titan Defense, I was awarded top secret SCI clearance, one of the highest security clearances available. It came after an even more intensive background investigation, one that included polygraph tests and interviews with people I'd known since childhood. I passed with flying colors. The same week, I got a letter forwarded from my parents' address. It was from Madison, written on yellow legal paper. Emma, I'm writing this from a court-mandated rehab facility. I'm not allowed phone or internet access, so a letter is my only option. I've had a lot of time to think over the past year. About my life. About my choices. About how I treated you. You were right. About everything. I was jealous of you. I always have been. You were smarter than me, more disciplined, more genuinely good, and instead of being proud of my little sister, I resented you for it. Mom and Dad made it worse. They gave me everything, so I thought I deserved everything, including things that were yours. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this whole letter, but I needed to say it anyway. I stole your job offer 4 years ago. I called Titan Defense and pretended to be you. I made you look bad so I could look better. And then I took the position that should have been yours. I got fired 6 months later when they discovered I'd lied. I was under investigation for fraud, and instead of facing it, I ran. I blamed you. I told mom and dad it was somehow your fault. When I tried to apply to Titan Defense this time, I thought I could do the same thing again. I thought I was smarter than their background check. I thought I could lie my way through like I always had. But you knew, didn't you? You knew exactly what I'd done before, and you let me walk into that trap. I was angry at first. I felt betrayed. But then I realized you didn't trap me. I trapped myself. Every lie I told, every corner I cut, every rule I broke, those were my choices. And they finally caught up to me. I'm trying to get better, really trying. The therapist here says I have to accept responsibility. I have to stop blaming other people for my problems. So that's what I'm doing. I'm responsible for my failures. Me, not you, not mom, not dad, me. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be, Madison. I read the letter 3 times, looked for the manipulation, the guilt trip, the hidden ask for help, but it wasn't there. It was just honest, raw, real. Maybe Madison really was trying to change. Maybe rehab was helping. Maybe someday I'd be able to forgive her, but not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, even in this second life. I put the letter in a drawer and went back to work. 2 years after starting at Titan Defense, I was promoted to senior security analyst. I had a team of 5 people reporting to me. I was earning $185,000 a year. I'd bought a house, a real house, not an apartment, in a beautiful neighborhood. I was dating someone wonderful, a fellow analyst named Marcus, who thought I was brilliant and amazing and worthy. I had friends, real friends, people who valued me for who I was, not for what I could give them. I was happy. And then, one afternoon, I got a call from Dad. "Emma, it's your father." I hadn't spoken to him in 2 years. "Hi, Dad. I wanted to let you know that your mother and I are getting divorced." I sat down slowly. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's been coming for a while. Since Madison," he trailed off, "since everything fell apart." "I see." "Your mother and I disagreed about how to handle it. She wanted to keep covering for Madison, keep fixing things. I finally realized we couldn't, that we'd been enabling her for years, decades." "Yeah," I said quietly. "You had. I owe you an apology, Emma, a real one." I waited. "I failed you as a father. I prioritized Madison over you. I gave her every advantage and left you to struggle. And when you succeeded anyway, despite me, not because of me, I still didn't see it, didn't value it." My throat felt tight. "No, you didn't. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know I can't take back 26 years of neglect, but I am sorry." "Why now?" I asked. "Why are you apologizing now?" "Because I saw Madison's letter to you. She showed it to me when she got out of rehab. And I realized she learned to take responsibility before I did. My daughter, who I'd spoiled rotten, who I'd never held accountable for anything, figured out how to own her mistakes while I was still making excuses." He paused, "And I read about your promotion in the industry newsletter. Titan Defense highlighted you as one of their top analysts. I showed it to some colleagues, and they were all impressed. They asked about you, wanted to know how I'd raised such an accomplished daughter." I laughed bitterly. "You didn't raise me, I raised myself." "I know, and that's what makes your success even more remarkable. You had every reason to fail, every reason to give up, but you didn't. You worked harder than anyone. You earned everything you have." "Yes," I said. "I did. I'm proud of you, Emma. I should have said that years ago, decades ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you." The words I'd wanted to hear my entire life. The validation I'd craved had worked myself to exhaustion chasing. And now that I had it, I realized something. I didn't need it anymore. Thank you, I said. That means something. But, Dad, I don't need your pride to know I'm successful. I don't need your approval to know I'm worthy. I figured that out on my own. I understand, and I don't expect you to forgive me or to have a relationship with me. I just wanted you to know that I see you now. I see what I missed. Okay, I said. I appreciate you telling me. We said goodbye. I hung up and I felt nothing, not anger, not satisfaction, just a calm acceptance. My father's apology didn't undo the past. It didn't erase the years of favoritism, of neglect, of choosing Madison over me again and again, but it did give me closure. 3 years after starting at Titan Defense on my 29th birthday, I got a promotion to Deputy Director of Security Analysis. I was the youngest person ever to hold the position. The promotion came with a six-figure bonus, stock options, and a corner office overlooking the city. That evening, I sat in my new office after everyone had gone home, looking out at the lights of the city and thought about my first life. In that life, at 29, I'd been dead for 3 years, forgotten, a failure. In this life, I was thriving, respected, successful. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't just foreknowledge from my rebirth. The difference was that I'd stopped seeking my family's approval. I'd stopped trying to earn love from people who would never give it. I'd stopped letting Madison take what was mine. I'd chosen myself. And that had made all the difference. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Dinner at 7 to celebrate. I'm making your favorite. I smiled and texted back. Perfect. See you soon. As I gathered my things to leave, I caught sight of my reflection in the office window. I looked happy, confident, at peace. I'd been given a second chance at life, and I'd used it to build something real, something earned, something that couldn't be taken away. Madison had tried to steal my future again, and this time I'd let her try, only to watch her destroy herself with her own lies. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. And it was so, so sweet. Epilogue. 5 years after my rebirth, I attended a security industry conference as a keynote speaker. I was 31 years old, director of security operations at Titan Defense, and one of the most respected voices in the field. As I walked to the stage, I saw someone in the back of the auditorium. Madison. She looked different, older, thinner. She was wearing a simple black suit, sitting alone, taking notes on a pad of paper. After my speech, which received a standing ovation, she approached me. Emma, that was incredible. You're incredible. Thank you, I said cautiously. I'm working as a paralegal now, she said. Got my certification through community college. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I'm good at it. That's great, Madison, really. I'm sober, 2 years next month, and I'm in therapy. Real therapy, not court-mandated. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. She smiled sadly. I don't know about deserve, but I'm trying to earn it. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. I don't expect us to be close, Madison said. I know I destroyed that, but maybe someday we could get coffee, just to talk? I thought about it. About the years of abuse, the betrayal, the pain. But I also thought about growth, about change, about the fact that holding on to anger was exhausting. Maybe, I said. Someday, she nodded. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. She turned to leave, then stopped. Emma, you were always the strong one, the smart one, the one who actually deserved everything. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I know, I said. I forgive you. And I meant it. Because forgiveness wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. About letting go of the weight I'd carried for too long. I watched her walk away, and I felt lighter. That night, Marcus and I celebrated with champagne on our balcony. We'd just found out I was being considered for vice president of the entire division at 31. To you, Marcus said, raising his glass, the most brilliant, accomplished, incredible woman I know. To second chances, I countered, and making them count. We clinked glasses and looked out at the city lights. I'd died once, alone and broken, convinced I was worthless. I'd been reborn with foreknowledge, with anger, with a plan for revenge. But what I'd built wasn't just revenge. It was a life. A real life. One built on merit, on hard work, on integrity. Madison had failed her background check because she was a liar. I'd passed mine because I'd always told the truth. In the end, it was that simple. And that was the sweetest justice of all.